Hello, hi, good morning. I don't want to stay, it's morning yap. If you've never seen me before, I'm Tara Prilo. I am your resident Black, biracial, multi-passionate musician. I make the intangible tangible by helping others release their entanglements. That one was really good. Okay, we got the turning off thing. Hold on. So anyway, I don't want to talk too much about Renee Good or even Keith Porter or some of the things that are going on here in Minnesota. I will just mention I just did get done watching the press conference with Jacob Frey. I don't know how you say his name. Anyway, and essentially they're asking the FBI to re-include the BCA. They do want to prosecute this and be a part of the investigation. And we will see if that happens and what legal recourse may or may not be taken as we go forward. There are still protests. Minneapolis schools are closed. Fridley schools are closed. Columbia Heights schools are closed. And of course, there have been many ICE sightings here in Minnesota. Yesterday, essentially, Walz did a press conference, and then Donald Trump said, I'm going to send in more ICE. I think that did end up happening. But I want to talk and focus this morning on how many music organizations in the Twin Cities are actually talking about this and actually saying they're grieving with the community. And I want to give some insight to what happened during my rehearsal last night with Minnesota Opera. And, what I first want to say is it's just really nice to see music organizations actually engaging with the community and actually acknowledging that there's stuff happening in the community. Because in 2020, people didn't want to. What's in your mouth, honey? Can you show me? Oh, okay. That's okay. You can have that. I saw Minnesota Orchestra talk about it. Minnesota Opera has been, kind of not behind the scenes, but mostly just because I don't think there's a public show going on right now. And I've talked about it with several other organizations. And yeah, it's, it is something to behold. But one of the things that got brought up at rehearsal last night was, and I was reminded of this, that the kids might need someone to talk to. And this is something that I've talked about before, being a private voice student, being a private voice and piano teacher. Sometimes you get situations where the kiddos are more comfortable talking to you as a adult, and they're looking for, various things, but they want to be able to talk about it and, how to open space for that. And Minnesota Opera has opened the rehearsals to, moms of the kiddos that are doing this, parents of these kids, and we're just trying to keep everybody safe. And it was a really, we are creating our own community. We are making sure that people are safe, and we are also acknowledging the events that are happening. And I really appreciate that, because I think sometimes there's an expectation in the art world, in the music world, to just ignore what's happening outside, right? And the fact is that most art is created in response or in an effort to change the culture, to change society, to respond to the things that we're seeing and the things that have happened. And I don't enjoy rehearsal processes or spaces where things are just not acknowledged. So I really appreciate that. And it was a really lovely rehearsal. I laughed for the first time in days, hardcore, crying laughter. And that is so sacred, right? Joy is the revolution. It is so sacred to be able to acknowledge the things that are happening and hold those things together, and then also be able to laugh together, right? Also be able to have a moment where we're not needing to numb, where we're not needing to be careful with each other, where we are actively in our joy, right? in this safe space that we've created for this show to happen, right? And so, yeah, things are heavy. It feels a lot like every day waking up the last couple days has felt like waking up after every other state-sanctioned murder that has happened. I'm very reminded of Philando Castile. I'm very reminded of George Floyd. I'm very reminded of all of these things, and I'm very reminded that Minnesota is, I saw somebody called Minnesota a scapegoat this morning, because Minnesota is nice. Minnesota being at the epicenter, Minneapolis being at the epicenter. Minneapolis has been the epicenter of police murders of Black people for at least 20 years, if not longer. And that's a lot to hold. It's a lot, like, that is waking up every day knowing that, and knowing that, like, this is essentially, like, our leadership is preparing for, both political war and on the ground protect the Minnesotans war with ICE and the federal government. And that's big, and I think it's okay that we state what's going on. And I also saw another video this morning, and in it she was reflecting on a video that she had made last year when the woman, I think her name was Dr. Teresa, got dragged out of the Idaho meeting, and there were so many people filming, but there was no one doing anything. And yes, we do need legal observers. We do need people taping. Darnella Frazier, the reason that we know George Floyd's story is because Darnella Frazier turned on her phone and recorded the entire thing. And we need people, especially when there's lots of people, to do things, right? You have to learn to de-arrest. You have to learn to get your people out of these situations, not just yelling at them. Like, any ICE officer, any person can stand and F you, right? And that's what Jacob Fry, he just said in the thing. He said, what's worse, or like, what are you more offended about, a person that got murdered or my F-bomb, right? And the reality is, like, we can all handle an F-bomb. We can all handle the curse words. It's just a choice. This in the background, those of you that are watching on a video platform, this is I can't even get out of the way. This is, let me make myself small. This is the barricades that were put up in the area that Renee Good was murdered in. And the city has opted to remove them. I'm sure that they will be replaced. Clearly the city learned nothing during 2020, and how 38th and Chicago has been kept safe by the Black community and activists and those fighting for the people. So anywho, that's what that is. I have a whole bunch of, now we're crooked. I have a whole bunch of protests and information linked in my stories on Instagram right now. If you are interested in that, I will be going live with Dr. Flo at noon. Yeah. And I think that's really all I got. We're living through it. We are attempting to not numb. We are angry. We are sad. We are, but we are also forced to go on, right? Because we're forced to fight. And I think that has been I said it in a caption the other day. Some people are gifted complacency. We're not. Those of us that are marginalized in any way, or those of us that actually care about other human beings, those of us that are tapped into our humanity, we don't get a time to be complacent. We have been fighting the entire time. So yeah, be safe. Joy is our revolution, and I will see you next time.